Thanks to Joel, Crow, Tom Servo, and the rest of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 crew, I grew up loving cheesy creature features from the paranoid 1950s. With their low-budget effects, questionable acting decisions, and silly monsters, I couldn't help but fall under their spell. The Deadly Tower of Monsters uses this nostalgia for schlocky science fiction to create a riotously funny action game that perfectly captures the spirit of those B-rate classics. Developed by the same team that brought you Rock of Ages and Xenoclash, The Deadly Tower of Monsters is the name of a fictional sci-fi movie from director Dan Smith. He's been brought into the studio to record a director's commentary track for the brand new anniversary DVD, which gives us an excuse to experience all the wacky hijinks of Dick Starspeed as he attempts to survive the tallest tower you'll ever see. Things get off to a rocky start when our hero is shot down and crash lands on an alien planet filled with every B-rate monster you can think of, and even a few you've probably forgotten about. In order to stay alive, Dick teams up with a cocksure lass named Starlet Nova, who just so happens to be the daughter of the evil emperor. Little does Dick know that he's about to get caught up in a life-and-death struggle against this nefarious ruler and his eccentric accomplice, Dr. Peculiar. Every element of the Deadly Tower of Monsters feels like it came directly from Mystery Science Theater 3000's back catalog. The weapons are a little more than repurposed household objects, the backdrops are clearly hobbled together, and you can see the strings holding everything up. There are no fancy CGI effects here, just good old-fashioned stop-motion dinosaurs, dogs stuffed into vacuum cleaners, electricity monsters painted on every frame of the film, and the obligatory men in robot suits. And to help sell the effect, time has distorted the color and warped the quality. Apart from the style, the Deadly Tower of Monsters plays out like a fairly typical action brawler. Players can choose between 3 characters and a whole host of cheesy science fiction themed weapons. Each hero goes into battle with both guns and melee weapons, both mapped to different buttons. As we make our way up what seems like a never-ending skyscraper, each character learns unique abilities that will help them get through the game's minor puzzle sections. The rest is just bashing enemies until they die and using your rocket pack to survive huge falls. The camera is posted overhead, always looking down at our hero. This makes it nearly impossible to find out how tall the tower actually is, but offers a dizzying view of what's below that is sure to set off your acrophobia. This also allows for moments when Dick, Scarlet, or the robot will need to take aim at the spaceship and pterodactyls attacking from below. I like the way the game plays with the verticality of the tower. Hey, remember that schlocky director I mentioned earlier? Well, he provides a running commentary throughout most of the game. Even before you start the adventure, Dan is grumbling about box art and the recording conditions. As the events unfold, he sheds light on the behind-the-scenes stories and conflicts between the cast. He pulls back the curtain to reveal the slapdash monster design and all the cuts that had to be made due to logistical problems. Dan also discusses the injuries on set and how extras were treated back in the good old days. While a lot of Dan's musings are used for comedic effect, the seemingly random thoughts do help color the story in unexpected ways. It also gives us a chance to mock a lot of the jarringly outdated notions that came from that era of Hollywood. The writers have a lot of fun lampooning the blatant sexism of the 1950s and 60s, as well as the political struggles involved just to get a movie made. Dan is not a great director, and his inability to take ownership over even the smallest problems leads to some truly inspired commentary. There's an argument to be made that the brilliance of Dan's audio track overshadows the shallow gameplay mechanics. I found myself wanting to spend more time listening to his stories than actually fighting monsters, but even if the action is a bit repetitive, it's worth sticking it out just for the story. Very few games stick the landing as well as the Deadly Tower of Monsters. Sure, the combat could have used more depth, but it's worth the price of admission alone for the final act. Beyond the bare-bones gameplay, I was a bit disappointed with some of the visuals. I love the look of the monsters and a lot of the style choices, but I wish the overhead graphics were a bit more exciting. The camera is pulled back a little too far, and I wish there was a way to zoom in to look at some of the details. Speaking of which, the player doesn't have much control over the camera. leading to far too many situations where I couldn't tell what I was running towards. But even as I fought with the camera and yearned for more involving combat, I couldn't help but fall in love with its style and story. I laughed constantly from beginning to end and was floored by the final act. The developers find a way to throw every cheesy monster and creature feature cliche into this 4-hour action game. The Deadly Tower of Monsters probably won't be anybody's game of the year, but it's a whole lot better than the movies it's mocking. Hey, thanks for watching the review. This is actually the second review we posted today. Earlier, I uploaded my take on Gemini Heroes Reborn, a game based on a TV reboot that was recently cancelled. Looking forward, I'm gearing up for a review of Between Me and the Night, Dino Eggs Rebirth, and AIPD, Artificial Intelligence Police Department. We also have some big features coming, as well as a huge announcement that may excite people who remember categories. All of that is coming in the next few days, so go ahead and click the subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.